What big-name NHL players set for a change of scenery's fantasy value could explode on a new squad? We'll talk about a whole bunch of players on Thursday's show.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Buckle up and here we go, my friends, for what is sure to be a hectic few weeks of fantasy hockey maneuvering for all of our GMs out there who continue to hold us down and make us their first listen every single day here at the Locked On Podcast Network that serves up the #1 sports podcast network in North America. And here at the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we are proud to be a part of that. Mr. Rodin, the trade deadline, the Winter Olympics. We have a pause in there. There is a lot to maneuver as a fantasy GM, and one of those is knowing what players, if they move cities, that you want to pounce on or perhaps get a little frisky out there and go out and acquire some of these players now, because there's a number of guys on this list. We're looking at the trade bait board list. Players that could be moved by the deadline. A guy like Ryan O'Reilly, who I'm going to talk about. I know you want to talk about the Preds, a whole bunch of others. There's already fantasy value. They go to a winner, could be huge.
Yeah, when you look at the top 20 names on the trade bait board, they all pretty much come from the same teams. The New York Rangers, the St. Louis Blues, the Nashville Predators, the Calgary Flames are in there a bunch as well. And obviously the Vancouver Canucks are probably going to be a fire sale come the NHL trade deadline in March. The two top names that are really intriguing to me and that I really want to talk about are Alex Tuch and Dougie Hamilton. So I'll start right there with actually Alex Tuch and the Buffalo Sabres. This one's very interesting because it looks like Alex Tuch is looking for somewhere in the range of 10 to 11 million AAV, somewhere in the perspective of what Adrian Kempe got. And to be completely fair and honest, that's pretty understandable when you compare both Alex Tuch and Adrian Kempe and what they produce and what they bring to the table for their respective clubs. So Alex Tuch wanting somewhere around 10.5 million AAV is not out of the question. It's not out of the realm of possibility. The only thing that I'm wondering is, how do the Buffalo Sabres get this done? Because new Buffalo Sabres general manager Jarmo Kekalainen has stated that he wants to sign and they're working to get a deal done with Alex Tuch. However, it's going to be near to impossible at that money if they're not able to move, if they're not able to move a contract. And specifically, I'm looking at Owen Power, who's at 8.5 million AAV for the next 5 to 6 years. They need to create some cap space because going into next year, they're only going to have 12.5 million of cap space after just signing Josh Doan to a 7-year, $6.95 million AAV deal, which is absolutely electric for them as well. He's having a stellar season with them. The fact that he was a quote unquote throw-in from the Utah Mammoth is just funny at this point. But I think Alex Tuch, if I would like to see him remain in a Buffalo uniform. He's been tremendous. He's one of my favorite fantasy players to have on my fantasy hockey team. 41 points in 48 games this year. He's had a career high 79 points in 74 games just 3 seasons ago. We know what he brings on the offensive side of things. He's a goal scorer at heart. He's found some great chemistry with Tage Thompson and a lot of those young guys in the top 6-4 group in Buffalo. I would hate to see him go, but he could end up moving if they're not able to create some more cap space.
I guess I just don't really see, if he moves somewhere, how possibly his value kind of skyrockets, or really I take stock in it going up, because I think this is the perfect spot for him. I think he is right at home and where he needs to be, Steele. So I think you were kind of alluding to that, because this is also a case to me where he fits so nicely in the top 6 forward group that you might not want to buy into if he leaves, that's just automatically a great thing for his fantasy value. Is he a bit of a Swiss Army knife? We know he loves to block shots. He's a very responsible two-way player, but he 60 plus points of production to your fantasy squad. Very reliable, steady as she goes, Steele. 196 shots last year, 192 the year before that. Pretty close to right on pace for that same number. You can set your watch to this guy. I've spoken to him about him at length. Also, if you're the Buffalo Sabres, pay the man his money. You guys have been one of the best teams in the NHL over the last couple of weeks. And I'm not saying it's all because of Alex Tuch. He's been an important contributor. So let's move on. Lots of players here to talk about on this top 20 board, Steele. We're looking at, I sent you the scores, the NHL.com, they have theirs. TSN has theirs. I'm taking a look at our boy John Maddish's list from the score. So I'm going to start the lowest down my list with a player in Ryan O'Reilly that I have seen really kind of step up and perform this season. 47 points, Steele, in 49 games. He has been on a special kind of heater. 5 goals in his last 3 games. This is a spot for me. As a player in the past, I believe he was traded at the deadline before. I think this guy is destined for another team. He is rugged. He can do a little bit of everything. He can anchor a top line. He can kill penalties if you want. Slot him into a second or third unit. And I would say, I don't really know what teams are sniffing around, but Ryan O'Reilly, with what he's been able to do this season, to me, he becomes a very attractive piece. If he was able to get this done with the rejuvenated Nashville Predators, if he goes to an offense looking for a little bit of veteran boost, baby, have you done yourself real well in this fantasy year by getting a grab on Ryan O'Reilly?
If it's not a right shot defenseman, I think the next valuable position is a veteran down the middle, and you're going to see a lot of them go at the trade deadline. You want to talk about Nazem Kadri. You also want to talk about Vincent Trocheck, Ryan O'Reilly. All of those are veteran centers that a lot of Stanley Cup contending teams are going to go after. I think, again, it's very unlikely to be traded within the division, especially to a rival, but a team like the Minnesota Wild would really love a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, who they need a lot of help down the middle right now, especially with some injuries, especially to Joel Eriksson X. So I think Ryan O'Reilly is a great candidate. I might as well just get into my Nashville Predator player as well, and Steven Stamkos. Right there along Ryan O'Reilly, he's been on a special kind of heater himself, because both those players, especially Steven Stamkos, were dead in the water. They were outright completely disgraceful when it came to fantasy hockey at the beginning of the season. Now Steven Stamkos, 33 points in 49 games. He's up to 21 goals on the season as well. He's shooting the puck a lot more, which is great. 115 shots at this point. He's got an 18.3 shooting percentage, which is now his best in the last 5 years. He gets some hits. He gets some blocks from time to time. Power play for proficiency. We know Nashville's not the greatest, but he's got 9 power play points as well. If he were to be moved, and I actually see him, again, if he were to be, he's going to end up back in the Eastern Conference. And I know he's got some, not himself connection, but he's been connected to the New Jersey Devils. If they're able to unload some of those contracts, if they're able to find their way back into the playoff spots as well, they're only 4 points out of a playoff spot right now. I could see him back in the Eastern Conference with another cup contending team.
The Nashville Predators were in the bottom of the league last year for goals for. And I know this year they have still had struggles at times, but that offense has looked like a completely different club at times. Trying to take a look at where they actually sit in the league, they still have slid back down into the second half. But what I'm trying to get at is it's been intriguing to see the rejuvenation of fantasy value in players that we just discussed in Nashville, making them very attractive at the deadline. So if you're already getting value out of them now, pay attention to where they might head. I've got a couple of other veteran centers that you already discussed previously on shows, but right now, Steele, it's go time because the NHL is buzzing. We've got more players to talk about, big time bets. Stay tuned for tomorrow's show as well. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. You ever need to hire somebody who looked good on paper but just wasn't the right fit? You know how important it is when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for. Trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs posts put you at the top of the page to help you reach the right candidates faster. Every time you needed to hire somebody, you go straight to Indeed. Very specific, real experience, not just a resume buzzword or two. Spend more time interviewing candidates. Check all the boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your premium placement the spot it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support the pod by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
And thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. And thank you so much for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, you got to go check out our new Everydayer Club. You get access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Fantasy Hockey or any Locked On channel you want to listen to. It's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, every other major podcast app out there. You also get members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord servers, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. It's a great place to hang out with Flip and I in it during games, after games, any questions you want to ask, any potential trades, especially with that, with the playoffs looming around the corner. Put in the Discord server. You can also leave on the YouTube channel, but it's all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonfantasyhockey.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. The Everydayer Club, it really is a great place to be with Flip and I. We're trying to get more people in there and just continue to grow the hockey community in general. Flip.
Yes, sir.
Trade bait board, a lot to look at when it comes to these players and players that you might want to target and probably should target before your fantasy hockey playoffs begin. Because I know in some of my leagues, I've only got one more week left until the fantasy playoffs start. A few of them I'm only 2 weeks away, but even just for our competitive and casual league, I mean, who do you want to target? These are players that you got to keep your eyes peeled on.
Yeah, and as much as my season might be cook steel, I'm still trying to spice things up and make a few moves. And if you and you are on the cusp, and you do have a real shot at the postseason, the fantasy playoffs, a guy like Vinny Trocheck, who has had a really good year on a bad team in a bad spot for the Rangers, man, it just stinks in New York. They need to shake something up, and that's kind of crazy considering, you know, sidebar from fantasy, just how effective this player can be. And yeah, he's been a little bit banged up, but actually, when you look at his previous 4 seasons, he only missed a single game. So he has been very durable in his career. He covers peripherals very well. He's got 118 hits this year. And you might kind of look at his year to year in terms of points over the last 3 seasons, and it's taken a little bit of a negative trajectory. Bounce back this year. 32 points in 37 games. Yeah, you don't want to look at that minus 17 number. And the shots are clearly down, but you still get hits. He isn't afraid to mix it up. 24 penalty minutes. I think, given what you've seen just in the dressing room, the energy, the front office in New York, and the results on the ice, of all of the times I'm going to say change of scenery might explode this player's value, this guy's a gamer, Steele. So if he's getting it done now, and I agree with you, that Minnesota Wild club would absolutely love Vinny up the middle there for the Minnesota Wild, Vinny and Minnie. That could be a spot. If he's getting rushes with Kirill and you took a shot on him now while he's already producing, could take your team to the promised land.
The nickname's already there. Vinny and Minnie. I absolutely love that one. They need some help down the middle for sure. But yeah, you kind of look around the league, and we've talked about it when it comes to Vincent Trocheck, JT Miller at times, obviously not this year, Joel Eriksson Ek, Zach Hyman, guys who work the hardest all around the ice, especially in those corners and in front of the net. They bring a ton of fantasy value because they put their body on the line. They're not afraid to get into the mix of it, like you said, the physicality, the block shots, along with the shots on goal and the steady, consistent offensive production they bring. Vincent Trocheck is just one of those guys. He's a dog. I love this player on the fantasy team.
I appreciate that. And I guess what I just wanted to wrap it up with, he's a lead in the faceoff dot. He's regularly right around 58, 59%. This year a little bit down, 57%, but he's still a lead in the dot. And what I wanted to wrap it up with, 2 kind of intangibles aside from fantasy, but just that make him very attractive to move. How about a $5.63 million cap hit for another 3 years? So
Yeah.
if you go out there and spend the capital and you get this guy for 5.6 for the next 3 seasons, that's a spot where I'm looking at even more, or the next 2 seasons. Sorry about that. Over to you. Who else you looking at? Players that could be on the move that you might want to target.
Yeah, like I said, I think outside of Alex Tuch, one of my top targets and favorite guys to look for going into the trade deadline is Dougie Hamilton, because we know the value has been at an all-time low. He's not lived up to expectations, and we kind of expected that going into the season, with Luke Hughes being the number one defenseman now, getting the quarterbacking minutes on the first power play unit instead of Dougie Hamilton. But you didn't expect it to this degree. He had 40 points in 64 games last year. He has 16 and 45 this season. And again, relatively the shooting percentage has been relatively the same. 4.8 last year, 4.3 this year. The hits, the blocks are on relatively the same pace. The shots on goal are relatively the same pace as well. It's just the primary and secondary assists. He's actually getting more ice time this year too. 21 and a half minutes of average ice time compared to 1950 the year prior. So it's kind of been a weird situation for Dougie Hamilton. However, he's providing some value right now, and this is great for the front office as they try to move him. He's on a 6-game point streak with 7 points in that time. Luke Hughes actually just went down to injury, I believe, shoulder separation or something. So he's going to be getting the brunt of all those, power play time as well. They're still looking to move him out along with, I believe, Andre Palat, and just get those contracts off their sheet right now at $9 million signed for the next 2 years. 2 teams come to mind. Obviously, he's been linked to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and if they can somehow facilitate a trade for him, I think that brings his fantasy value right up the board as well. I think he immediately lands on that first power play unit as a right shot defenseman. You kind of want that. I know Ekman Larson and Morgan Riley have been kind of in and out on that first and second unit. I think Dougie Hamilton, if he lands in Toronto, he gets some time, and majority of the time on the first power play unit. And I can see you wincing, but along with the second team, I think the San Jose Sharks. He was linked to the San Jose Sharks last year. He vetoed a trade to San Jose because he wanted to be with a Stanley Cup contending team, or at least a contending team. And maybe he waives that no move clause to go to San Jose now. They continue to fight for a playoff spot. You've got Macklin Celebrini just completely turning this club around. So maybe he goes there and moves, waives his no move clause to San Jose. 2 teams I think would be very inclined to get Dougie Hamilton. And again, both those teams, I believe, increase his fantasy value, especially if he goes to San Jose, because he becomes the number 1 guy on the power play unit.
Yeah, and I guess why I was wincing is just when a guy has 16 points in 45 games, howbeit, I agree with you that he has looked a lot better over the last 5 or 6 game stretch, 100%. And he's just still 32 years old, so maybe there is just still some left in the tank here, because there really should be at 32 years old, even though he does have 800 career-plus games under his belt. I guess I'm just still a little bit wary about these Toronto Maple Leafs, Mr. Rodin. And with key injuries on the back end without guys like Chris Tanev and Jake McCabe at times this season, they've really looked exposed defensively. And I just don't know if bringing in a guy like Dougie Hamilton, who in his career I know has decent kind of numbers peripherally defensively, not known for his defensive prowess. However, very intriguing, and it does look like those are the 2 teams at the top of the list for interest in that player, and that makes it a little bit spicier. So I got another player, a quick honorable mention as well for, I think, a player you should keep your eye on. Steele's got the same big-time bets as well. Let's get after it.
All of that and more coming up after the break on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Hit that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip, Livingstone, and Steele Rodin. Flip, I believe our last few players all come from the same team. The St. Louis Blues are also a fire sale. Braden Shen, Robert Thomas is on the list, Jordan Kyrou, Jordan Binnington. They're a fire sale themselves as well. So who do you want to start with?
Yeah, I guess the name that also jumped off the page for me in terms of one that you could snag a little bit of sneaky value down the stretch on the blue line in Justin Faulk.
Yeah,
This guy's
Justin
on
Faulk as
career
well.
pace for 18 career goals. 18 goals this season. That's a career high. And then you take a look at 91 blocks, 51 hits. He's got 28 penalty minutes and almost 100 shots on net. I know he's 33, going to be 34 years old very soon, and might be one of those ones that a lot more impactful for the team on the ice than fantasy value. The blue line has this year for trying to get in pieces and get in value week to week, Steele. We've covered the blue paint. The blue line is next in line. It's been a real rugged season for your boy. Justin Faulk, I've been trying to show you guys some really steady as she goes, low risk, high reward type players that, one, I expect to be on the move, and two, I think you go out there, you get them, and they're serving value already. So if they go to a winner, which it's looking like the couple of players that we've spoken about definitely are, there is an angle that could help your team out of the ashes. I'm not saying I can do it, Steele, but Justin Faulk really covering the peripherals nicely this year. I think this is a sneaky good one that you might be able to even package deal. Throw in a big name, throw in Justin Faulk as the second one. People aren't even paying attention. Boom, Uncle Flip takes you to the promised land.
Uncle Flip taking you to the promised land. That's what he does here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey
Sometimes.
Pod. Justin Faulk, Braden Shen, like I said, I'm surprised Robert Thomas is on this list. I mean, those two are confusing to me, Robert Thomas and Jordan Kadri. Like, why sign them to, long-term contracts, 7 to 8 year deals, and then just pretty much almost immediately try to ship them off and, get their, get them to waive their no move clause, no trade clause, whatever it is. Those ones don't make sense. I want to quickly talk about Jordan Binnington as an option here because I could see him being shipped out. I think they're done with this guy. And look, he's been fantastic to this organization. He comes in, he won them a Stanley Cup 7 years ago. It's been that long. He just doesn't have it right now with this club. I don't know if he's completely invested with them anymore. I don't think they want him. And I think it's Joel Hofer's time, like you've said multiple times, over the last couple of years. Jordan Binnington, 8-13-6 record, an 869 save percentage, a 3.59 goals against average. I think St. Louis is done with this goaltender. It's Hofer's time. And when I look at some some teams that could possibly target this guy, it might be a little bit shocking, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Carolina Hurricanes take a stab at Jordan Binnington because they might want to package Frederik Andersen and Pyotr Kochetkov out of there. Those are two guys that are not going to win you a Stanley Cup. And we know how close the Carolina Hurricanes have come in the postseason and have not been able to get over that hump. I'm not sure, even though he's been great this year, if you want Boosie being that guy in the playoffs in his rookie year. Jordan Binnington, he has the caliber, he has the experience in the playoffs, and with that defensive core and team in front of Jordan Binnington, that's actually a very dangerous club going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So there's a reason Team Canada put Jordan Binnington on their roster, even with the statistics he has this year. He's got the experience. He's got the prowess. He has that killer instinct from time to time, which we've seen him do. Jordan Binnington, he's going to be on the move from St. Louis as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Carolina. I think they actually end up shipping Kochetkov and Anderson out at some point in the season as well.
The Hofer angle is intriguing. This Carolina angle is even more intriguing. Brendan Bussey has been sensational, but I totally agree with you there as well. Look, he plays well at the Olympics, even more heroics, and they somehow win a gold, and he plays out of his mind, and the Blues hit full sell mode anyway, and they're garbage up until that point. There are going to be some interested parties because say what you will about the numbers, you hit the nail on the head. This is a big game, big save goalie. And when it comes to the playoffs, you know what I like to talk about? A few different things, Steele. Special teams and all bets are, as much as we like to put on bets, all bets are off in terms of what the regular season meant because we've seen it. a flip gets switched, a switch gets flipped even, and players rejuvenate their value into next season. And that could be what happens with Jordan Binnington, Nazem Kadri, quickly, because I want to talk bets and I don't want to get too long here. We get you guys in and out 30 minutes. That's what we do. Nazem Kadri, the numbers are down, Steele. 34 points this year, only 9 goals in 49 games when he had a 35 piece the year before, a career high. It tells me this, once again, just like the other players, I really tried to focus on the ones that I feel a change of scenery, a boost of an offensive inclined club. This guy, from what I read, he wants Dallas or he wants Colorado. If he goes to one of those two clubs, Steele, imagine them with Nas. I don't want to get carried away because he could go anywhere, because if Calgary starts to slide, I think they have to move more pieces. Rasmus Anderson's move was the first of a couple of dominoes here. Blake Coleman seems likely as well. Nazem Kadri, I see the rumors to Toronto. I don't see it. That's too much money. It's not a need for this team up the middle nearly as much as others. I say keep your eye on Nas because he could explode. If he goes to a Western Conference juggernaut, you're going to be happy that you tapped in and saved today's episode. I'll leave it at that for my side of things. Hit me with your take or bets. I'm ready to go.
I know he's also been linked to the Montreal Canadiens.
That would bother me.
Could be possible. Blake Coleman's also been linked to the Montreal Canadiens. I could see either one of those guys landing there, not both, of course. But Nazem Kadri, if he gets moved, the fantasy value, of course, goes up with a lot of these players that we just talked about. Big time bets, though, on Thursday night. I'm going to rattle all 3 of mine off. Keep it quick and simple. Number 1, Oilers on the puck line against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I know they were without Leon Draisaitl.
He should be back.
The Oilers, I don't know. It said early next week. It's only been 4 days since they announced the leave of absence. I don't know if it's going to. Hopefully he's back. So that goes with my puck line anyways. But even if he's not there, Oilers on the puck line against the Penguins. They're 8-2-0 in the last 10 games against Pittsburgh. All 8 of those wins by 2 or more goals. And this is the second game of a back-to-back situation for the Penguins. They took on those Calgary Flames last night. Number 2, Hurricanes on the puck line against the Chicago Blackhawks. The Hurricanes are 9-0-1 in the last 10 games against Chicago. 7 of those 9 wins by 2 or more goals. They have second best home record right there behind, of course, the Colorado Avalanche this season. Third pick, Wild on the puck line against the Detroit Red Wings. 7-3-0 in the last 10 games. 6 of those wins by 2 or more goals. The Detroit Red Wings are starting a road trip. They played Toronto last night. So again, this is the second game of a back-to-back situation for Detroit. And it's going to be Cam Talbot in net, who has struggled so far this season with Detroit. It is my boy, but the Minnesota Wild are more my team than Cam Talbot.
100%. 100%. I like these picks, Steele. I hope you continue to stay hot. I've got so many picks that I had to dial them back in because it's been going okay for the boy over here, but I need to rein it in. I know that it's a tough back-to-back for Sid and the boys. Sidney Crosby feasts on Canadian teams in his career, and he's been on one once again. 2 goals and 4 assists in the last 3 games, playing excellent hockey, and I'm telling you, like I've been saying since the preseason, as we draw near to Milan, you are going to see this guy take his game to a whole other level. And this isn't something that is like, oh, Flip, you're getting hyped up. This is what he's done every season of his career. When things hit crunch time, postseason pushes, Stanley Cups, deep playoff runs, he shows up. And he sees this Olympic Games. I don't know what's going to happen with Pittsburgh, but you know how serious Captain Sidney takes being Captain Canada. He's already in full Olympic mode. Once the calendar flipped, he has been on a next level. 26 goals, 29 assists. And you know what's coming, baby. It's time for the Sidney Crosby anytime assist. It's been a while, and I know I do like this spot for Edmonton, most definitely. But we know the only chance Pittsburgh has is if Sidney Crosby continues to cook. In his career against the Edmonton Oilers, even though it's a West Coast situation and he hasn't played them a ton in his career, 27 points in 26 games.
Yes, sir.
21 of those assists. And very quickly, to wrap it up, that's not the lock of the night because I got another one at the other end of the Olympic spectrum for you. I think this Ottawa Senators team is back, Steele. And I know the Linus Allmark
After
interview
one win?
was. Brady Tkachuk is looking like he's possessed once again. And speaking about fired up for the Olympics, Brady Tkachuk has had a good season. 28 points in 29 games. It has not been the captain's fault. He has 3 goals in his last 4 games. Give me Brady Tkachuk any time point along with the Ottawa Senators on the road against the Nashville Predators. I'd lean to the over there as well. But hit me with the Crosby, hit me with the Brady, and hit me with the Ottawa Senators on the money line as my lock of the night. If you look to their last 5 games, couple of 1-goal losses, but otherwise the offense is clicking. So that's why I like the over as well, but I really do like Ottawa in this spot. Hit me with them on the money line as my lock of the night.
The Ottawa Senators, Lord and Savior, Optimus Rhyme has come to the rescue. James Reimer gets
Just
the win
grabbed him.
today. Just grabbed him. I saw you. You were active early today and last night, getting those ads on for Week 16 here on Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, get all of the latest episodes. You can follow us on X at LO_fantasy NHL. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you make your second listen NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL.